Hi everyone, I'm Hajnalka Collado, and most of you know me by the name of Heini, and I am a partner at Earthster. And you are watching our monthly Earthster training session, which is an open session. So I would like you to participate actively if you have any questions. Hopefully, I'm able to answer, and if not, you'll get your answers afterwards. And today's session is, as usual, dedicated for you to learn how to use Earthster. What is Earthster really? And our focus is always on the newest feature updates, which we have plenty this time and a lot of upcoming ones. So let's get to it. So, in case you're the first time joining this session, Earthster is an LCA tool, an online tool that you use your browser, and I can start sharing already my screen. This is how it looks. So, a browser-based LCA tool that lets you do LCA at scale. And what do we mean by at scale? That let's imagine you have thousands of products. With Earthster, you can easily create LCAs for all of them. You don't need to spend months on only one LCA. What you can do instead is create, or we can help you also create, a so-called template style LCA that you're able to utilize in all your auto models and use them as bits and pieces that makes your LCA modeling so much faster. And to make it even cooler, what you can do with Earthster is that you can involve your whole organization to collaborate, to gather the data easier, and even with your suppliers. So it's a truly collaborative tool designed to be fun to use. Now let me show you how it works. And today I decided that I'm going to show you again the demo where I modeled packed fruits. It's this cycle. This what you see now on my screen is what we call a workspace. And workspaces, you can have many different workspaces, and you can decide what you store in them based on how your own organization works. So you could, for example, use the workspaces based on projects, teams, products. It's up to you. And as you can see here is I keep my demos so that I remember that which ones are demos and which one not to touch. And what we're going to do is, since I have already a model that I want to show you, I'm going to create a duplicate so that we can make a mess out of it, but not alter the original one. I highly recommend it when you're playing around with your data. So how do you duplicate a cycle? You hover over the one that you're interested in duplicating. You go to the mini menu, this one, what you can see here, and then you just click on the option duplicate. It creates a new copy. It even renames it copy. And now this is a new version of it that I can totally destroy as much as I want for teaching you how to use Earthster. So what do you see here in front of you? What you see is the life cycle of packaged fruits. In this case, the model is showing you apricots, a small pack of apricots that has a tiny cardboard box and the fruits itself. So for example, if we go into the production stage of the life cycle of an apricot, the fruits, it has the fruit production, which has different options. This is what I mentioned with template based, that you have, if I would be the one manufacturing or growing, in this case, the fruits, I have, let's imagine I'm growing apricots, peaches, and mandarins, as you can see in my model. And because I have modeled this with parameters, which is a feature that's coming really soon, and if you would like to get one, or if you would like to have early access to already, I'll send in the moment in the comments the link for the form to fill out, and you can get early access. But I've been modeling with it already, so it works really well. Anyway, what I wanted to say that this is already kind of like a template style model. And as you can see, the apricot production is quite big impact when it comes to the whole life cycle of the product. And what I can also do is explore what EcoInvent has included in this data set. So in my model, if we open the whole, what we call the drawer, what I just did a moment ago is I clicked twice on the impact circle, and then it opens the drawer where you model your cycle. And I used, in this case, bundles to group together different areas of the production that make sense in my model. Bundles are fully flexible. It's up to you how you want to model your cycle. For example, based on a certain standard like the greenhouse gas protocol or an EPD, you can put the different categories, you add them as bundles, and then gather the data under them. And let's see what we have in here. So I have two bundles, food production and packaging separately. Inside food production, you can see the three different options that I have. And EcoInvent had straight away such a process, such an input as called apricot production in Spain. And I'm actually was imagining that, of course, these are grown in Spain, so perfect process for us. Then inside packaging, I have added, this is a super simple model. And with Earthster, you can do really complex models or simple models. So it's gives you the opportunity to do either way. In this model, it's a simple one. So I have added only craft paper as the cardboard because it's a thin little layer. And then I put packaging film production of polyethylene. And these are my guesses how many grams of material I need to represent that in the packaging. And yeah, these are straight away the inputs to my model. Let's imagine, or not let's imagine. So these are inputs, as you can see. If you hover over the tiny icon in front of the name of the input, you can see that it's an input. Now let's go check out the waste management. You go here. So in Earthster, we have three main default stages. Let me show you. We have production, distribution, and use. And use stage includes end of life and using the product. Let me show you how I do it. I always do it with bundles. And the reason why we combine them, or why we want our users to combine them, because ultimately, no matter how much you're modeling and you're telling your customers that, oh, please recycle our product, that's the best for the environment, they might do it or they might not. So when you're modeling, the waste management most often is on the responsibility of the user. So that's why it makes all the sense to put it in use phase. But of course, with bundles, you can create different structures. So what is a use phase for a piece of fruit? It's eating it. But even eating it has an environmental impact, because if you're taking it out, you are washing the fruit itself, more likely. Not everyone does it, but still. And there's an assumption how much water you use per fruit. And as you can see, this is also input to my model. But if we go back to waste management, now what you can see here, a different type of icon, that if you hover over, it says output. And most of the waste management processes are supposed to be output. And if you need to ever change this, so when you take, for example, from EcoInvent, a waste management process that's clearly waste management, the system already adds it for you as an output. But sometimes it's not so clear and the system might not know, so you can change it by hand, or there might be a reason to change it. So you just click on it, it reverses everything, as you can see, change the impact value also. And this simple it is to realize, okay, is it an input and an output? Helps you a lot when you're modeling your life cycle assessment. So let's put it back as the output. And yeah, one thing I would like to, at this point out that I would like to have questions. And I can see, I can see that I have already some questions. Let me show you. So Carl is saying that he's not able to log in. I would need some more information. Do you mean that you're not able to log in to LinkedIn, the event itself, or to Earthster? What I recommend is reloading the page. If with the LinkedIn live session you have any issues, reload the page and just click the join the theater again, or depending on your area where you are from, LinkedIn might look a bit different. Okay, and if that's not the answer, Carl, you were looking for, please send me a message later and we can figure out how, if there's something with Earthster that you're not able to log in. Now, so all questions welcome, and I would like to have even more to make it more interactive. Good, reload worked, perfect. Let me see. So what you see so far, this is how a model looks in Earthster when someone has already made it. And the one thing that I wanted to show you is, for example, in this case, if we click into packaging, with Earthster, you're able to explore where the impact is really coming from. And as you can see that here, when I'm hovering over, for example, the packaging film production, it gives me the option to explore the data. So what happens if I click here? I click this, and what this does is it fetches all the data from the database that this particular eco-invent process is made of. And you can go further and further to see where is really the environmental impact coming from. Another way of exploring the datasets is if you go back here, so you open the drawer of it, there you can always see the original cycle because you're able to rename any parts of this. And to see the original cycle, you click on the info button. This same info button is visible in when you're adding your inputs. I show you in a moment. And here you see the basic information of the dataset, what is in the database. If this is a user cycle, you would see it clearly that what is the source, the organization name, you see how much access you have to the data. The one I'm demoing now with is with a full eco-invent license. So my user is able to see much more detailed information about the eco-invent dataset than with our basic subscription types. And if you have already an existing if you have already an existing eco-invent license, please let us know. We can activate it for you inside Earthster for free. Now let me show you. Continue. So what can you see here about the dataset? You see the name of it. You see which version it is, which one is using, and we have added what we call a genre. This is there when you're searching for inputs to help you know better that what is this data really. And when you know, okay, this is a material product, that's easier to add to your model, and we have different types. You see the geography, everything that eco-invent tells you about the activity, about the input, their own classifications, and if there's anything else, it's all ends up in the end. And now this is the part that, like how to explore more the data. You click here, view as a cycle. It opens you a new tab. And if it doesn't, then make sure that you allow your browser to open pop-ups. So or open new windows or tabs, because otherwise you're not able to see it. Now, what you see in front of you here is the dataset itself. Let's see. Let's see what the researchers in eco-invent thought is relevant for producing a plastic film. And what they're saying, there's two really simple model. It has only the extrusion of plastic film and a granulate. And if we would want to go further, we could explore again and again that, okay, so the granulate, where is the impact is coming from there? So this is a good way of getting to know your product better, that where is the impact really coming from? And also it's useful when you're like, these two inputs sounds really similar. I wonder which one is better. You do this, you explore around and you're like, the market for has transportation, but the other one doesn't, for example. Now let's go back here. With the full EcoInvent license, what you can do is import this as a custom process. That means that when it imports it, it creates a custom process. I'll show you in a moment what does it mean. But what you can do with it once you have done it is edit the EcoInvent dataset. So here, for example, let's go back here. You can see that EcoInvent says that these are the relevant amounts in there. But if you know better, you know yourself, your production, then you can edit it. I recommend doing it only if you know what you're doing, but if you do, it's all yours. But you do need a full EcoInvent license to be able to do that. Otherwise, you don't have this button here. Now let's close this one. Then I see a lot of questions. Let me take some. Let me see, reload works. For example, this question, do you cover social footprint? Not yet. What we have currently, the default 5 impact categories that is available in Earthster without the full license, without the full EcoInvent license, is climate change. Here's a drop down that I'm clicking now, but you don't see the drop down. Damage to human health, damage to resource availability, damage to ecosystems, water use, and those are the main 5 what we have. And social aspects, not yet. So we haven't found a good enough database, but we might at some point add it on the list. And it would be actually cool to hear, Bogdan, a bit more of your use case, that what would you need such a data for and what kind of models you would do. And that's actually, we are always interested what our users are doing. Because our goal is to make Earthster as awesome as possible. And it's, of course, we need your feedback. And related to that, if you're interested in user testing, please send me a message. Send me a message at heini@earthster.org, and we can start doing user testing sessions, which means also you get to see features earlier. Now let me go back. So the different 5 impact categories. With the full EcoInvent license, when you click on the option Other, you're able to see, I'm really annoyed with the sharing option here. You're able to view PEF impact category, so environmental footprint 3.1, all the different impact categories. Let me choose, for example, EF single score. You select the one you want, and then you just say view impact. This takes a bit longer. Everything else in Earthster is super fast, but this takes a bit longer because it has to recalculate everything. And meanwhile, we go back, and what I wanted to show you is the other one. So EF 3.1, IPCC, then all the recipe different mid and endpoints, and we have also tracing, but with a full EcoInvent license. Because especially if you are interested in other impact categories, I recommend to getting one. You can get a full license through Earthster, or if you have one already, then we just need a proof. And we set it up for you in Earthster. Now let me see what happened. Now it opened it. And what you can see now here is the other impact category that I chosen in view mode. So when you are exploring the other impact categories, you are able to see and scroll around everything in your model, but you get to only view the impact. So if you need to be able to editing, you have to go back to the original cycle, and this to make it faster, because otherwise you would have to wait a long time for all these. And let me see exactly. So back to our original one. Whoops, zooming in too much. Talking about zooming, that's something that in the recent training, what has changed is where you are able to decide how much of your cycle you're viewing. You click on the eye icon and it opens you this extra selector in a way. If you click on reset diagram, it takes everything off. Look, it just centers, it takes you back. For example, when you're lost in all the exploration, it takes you back here. If you click on focus mode, it just takes out everything so that you can focus purely on the visuals. And the threshold is the one that helps you see the right amount of data. Because let me show you. So for example, now again, if we open packaging, here we explore it. Now this is too much data. You're like, oh, what is this? What you do in those moments, if your model is this intense that it has so many inputs, you set the threshold to hide the certain amount of percentage. So now it's showing everything. If I say show me or hide the last 2.5%, look, it bundles them up, what we call, look, a dynamic bundle called all others. Everything is there, but it hides them. So it's like they're small enough, I don't want to see it. And you can always change it. And this is something new since the last release is it remembers. So if you are one of those users who like to see everything and set it on 0, the next time you go in and out, it will remember. Same thing happens when you're choosing your impact category. If you prefer always seeing in water use, it stays on that. So that's something new. Now let me go back to the comments. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, Arthur was already asking that, can you show a different impact other than the CO2 equivalent? Yep, I just did. And this is what you have in water use. And as you can see, it says cubic meter. Is it cubic? Yes. My English is not always perfect. And what you see sometimes is the tiny prefixes. These are the SI units. So this in this case is millicubic meter. The big M is mega. The T is should be ton. No, I need to see them to my brain to kick in. But it's based on the SI units. Then let me see. Let's take off that one. Yep, this is also a great question, and I often overlook this one. So, can I add emissions to my processes under Exchanges with Nature tab? Yes, you can. That's exactly where you add them. Let me show you how to do it. So, these are the moments that it's good to use this one. For example, you know that a particular process is processing option is producing CO2. What you do is click on the Exchanges with Nature tab. You click Add New, and this one searches in the database of the elementary flows. And as you can see here, we also utilize different tags. And it remembered my last search. So I already searched for CO2. You can also write out the whole name, carbon dioxide. Let me show you something else. Nitrite. Is that how you write it? Exactly. For example. And now when you're adding this to your model, make sure you choose the correct one, because otherwise the elementary flow you're adding is the wrong one. And sometimes some of them has a lot of subcategory. Here's a drop-down menu. For example, it would be troposphere rural. If you want to specify it, if you do not know, leave it unspecified, and then you just say add exchange. And now it's there. You say 1 kilo, and depending on the chosen impact category, you see there an impact or not. So this doesn't have any water impacts. But this is how you add them. And the same thing happens when you are able to add inside a bundle. So look, what we did a moment ago, this is the production level, and the exchanges went straight away in here. We can also add them inside bundles. Let's say it belongs to fruit production, you add here something else. You add land use. And let's see this one. We add exchange, update the data, and you have all the information you need. This is the way to add exchanges. We call them exchanges, so elementary flows. And the same thing happens when you are creating a custom process. Now let me see, do I have any custom processes in my model? I might not have. So we can create one while we are doing it. Nope. That's a normal input with a parameter. Let me see. No custom processes. So let's create one. We are just gonna create. So a custom process is similar to the bundle, but what makes it special is that it's able to calculate. Let's say, instead of clicking add new, I'm gonna show you that first because this we're keep on skipping it. So adding new, when you click on here, you are searching the entire database. And currently what we have is EcoInvent 3.9.1, USEIO database, which is an open source database from the US Environmental Agency. And then what's coming really soon is Exiobase and the latest version of EcoInvent. So the 3.10 is coming soon. So this is the search, where you're searching the databases and all the cycles that you might have access to, whether because it's inside your organization, as you can see here, it shows up that origin for fruit demo is Earthster, and that's clear. So those are my my cycles that I have created many different versions, so it shows up. But let's look up just fruit. What happens? We click fruit. Now it's rearranged already, so it's prioritized for me EcoInvent. So if I want to see EcoInvent only, I'm able to mark that show me only EcoInvent. I click on this icon. As you can see now, it filters them out, filters all the rest out. So I wouldn't anymore see my own cycles. But what we can also do is say, no, don't show me EcoInvent. I want to see all the other databases. I don't want to see our own cycles either. And now you start seeing the different options. And I recommend use the filters because depending what you're looking for, the results are huge. Of course, the more databases we have, the more results you'll have. So you'll have to start filtering or using multiple keywords. And that's something special in Earthster. The search function looks up the words in the title and anything inside the description. One tip that I recommend using is let me see exactly. This is the USEIO. Let's go back. I do want to see EcoInvent. I'll show you the tip. For example, EcoInvent here. EcoInvent has its own classification system. In some cases, they are super smartly named, super smartly organized. For example, I like using for waste management processes. I snatch a category and I search with that. So let's see what happens if we put this one. This is the number. We go out from here and we clear out all the filters and search with that. Gives us 44. Relevant, or in this case, if I would be looking for some fruit or some growing processes, look, olive production, coconuts, palm fruit. So you can use EcoInvent's own classification system, or you can just say, what could be good? How do you write chromium? I don't know how to write chromium steel. and then it takes those in count. Or for example, I use often lorry and then I put a 6 in there so that it shows me Euro 6 or any of these things. For example, Euro. And then that's the way to find transportation. And these are the tags, what I mentioned before, that you should use in filtering. So for example, I say, I do want to see all the transportation, and now I want to see what are the options for buses. And as you can see, there is some here, for example, transport regular bus. Now, what you have to keep in mind, it's the search is really smart, but not smart enough to understand that if inside the description EchoInvent says this dataset does not include this and this and that, it will still show up. So it doesn't recognize such things, that it does not have that data. So it just searches purely from the text, at least at this point. Okay, any questions so far? We have used half an hour, and today we are having a different type of training than usual. I normally do my demos a bit shorter, but this is more of a training today. Then there is a great question. So Arthur is asking, can I import data from another LCA software? The answer is sort of. The answer is yes, you can, but not as a user. So if you would like to import from other data, other LCA tools, at the moment you have to come and tell us, and you give us your models and we do the import for you. So, but that feature is coming soon, that you're just able to upload it to the system. And also not only other LCA softwares, but we are working on making it easier to create LCA that scale, what I mentioned in the beginning. For example, you have your own ERP system that you have all your products and certain components that it consists of. If you're able to create a table of it, we are able to create all the LCAs for you out of that table. So you might get 1,000 LCAs in a few minutes. And soon that feature is coming soon, that you're able to do it yourself. Now, just send us a message and let's see what we can do. Then Paul is saying that he's eager to see more about parameters. Yeah, I will show that more, because the model that I'm showing today has a lot of parameters. But since that is not available for everyone, I think I'll do it a bit later. Let me see. Everyone wants to. Yeah, there's another question from Bogdan. Could you expand on creating different scenarios? Yes, I will show that also. Clearly, parameters are the winner for today's session. So I'm going to leave it for a bit later as a teaser. And I do show you those. At the same time, now we went through the basics, some of them. So, did we eventually add any processes? Let's add something. I don't remember. For example, you choose, let's just add the process. This is what happens. You click add process. By default, it adds with value 1, and then you need to think what is your value. And let's say this is 1,000. You add here notes on this data is coming from my Excels. This is important. Now I added here a really silly description. Here is the spot where you keep track of your assumptions. You keep track here. Where is the data coming from? It's for two purposes. For you to remember, because if you added a weird number like this, you're like, you open a month later your model and you're like, oh, what is this? What did I calculate? Where is this coming from? If you have added here that this is one person for certain amount of kilometers, for example, This will already help you to remember what is the data in there. And in case you're collaborating with others, they're able to see that, oh, okay, yeah, that's correct. And also, another aspect is that when you actually want to do a review of your LCA model, for example, you hired a consultancy to do a third party review, all these information they are able to see in Earthster if you share your data through Earthster with them. And that's something that we are now paying a lot of attention to, is reviewing opportunities. And we have a new feature that I think you don't see it yet, but today you will already. But inside Earthster, when you have already a model, on the left side, in front of the name, there's a tiny icon, and it's a menu for handling data on a cycle level. On the left side, when you open the drawer, everything is related to handling the inputs of your LCA. And also there is advanced features. For example, some might be hidden under the processes. For example, you can swap a process, you can duplicate, move them around. Some of them are visible here on the main view, the same mini menu thing. And some, for example, swapping doesn't happen often, but you're able to swap a process, which means that you search from the database. It keeps all the data the same and you just change it. For example, I'll show you with this one. So if we change this bus one, swap process, we want to take, let's say this one instead, add process, it kept everything the same, but it changed the cycle. Really useful if you by accident chose the wrong one, or when you're doing models that you have a template, you make a copy, and in the copy you need to update something, little bits and pieces. I recommend doing this. But back to the review. So a new feature that you're going to have access now to is called review. At the moment, it's still quite simple, but what you get with this is an overview of your cycle. Really useful for seeing if you have chosen different regions with data. So if your model, someone's been modeling it and they chose for one a European average, the other one a global one, a third one Europe without Switzerland, and you're like, is this correct? With these tiny flags here, you see straight away that where is the data from, so the region of the data. And of course, when you click on it, it opens straight away the drawer, and you're able to see and check if it's correct. And as you can see also here, these tiny icons, the tiny dots become bigger when you hover over them, and you see the description, what was stored in that particular process. And this is, for example, why you should always add there some of your assumptions, because when you download this as a CSV, you'll get all the names and the descriptions, which you can give forward for someone else to check on your cycle. Sorry. But yeah, this is one of the new features. It's a super cool one. I love it. It helps me model a lot. In this case, everything is plain, so that's simple to notice, but it helps. Another thing that has changed since last time is we have separated the sections called data sources and request to suppliers. Let's see what we have in here. Data sources is the collection of all the inputs to your cycle. And some of them you might be seeing, like, for example, peach production could be used in multiple spots in the model. In this case, it's not. You can see where you're using it. So if you click here, get more information about this process, it opens the cycle summary. The next one, where am I using this process? It opens the drawer. If it's only once, it opens the drawer. If you have multiple instances, for example, you have several transportation inputs, then it shows you the list and you're able to navigate there. And the last one, you are just able to view the process straight as a cycle. And the important part from data sources is here is where you see that is your data up to date. In this case, in this model, everything is nicely up to date. I'm using all the latest EcoInvent datasets. But if you have created cycles that are older, let me show you some of my cycles that are for sure older. For example, this one, the computer mouse. Here you can see it already tells me from up here that I have 15 updates. If I click on it, it opens the same data sources. You open it and then you can see that there is new versions available. So if I click here to update, it just takes the latest version in the database. And that's it. It's like this. You can decide to click on the update all or one by one if you want to see more clearly what has happened with the dataset. Now, this is an interesting one. A deprecated dataset means that that particular process no longer exists in the database for one reason or another. In some cases, for example, EcoInvent used to have, let's say, mining metals, and it included iron, silver, and gold in it. And in the newer version, it has broken down those all to different inputs or different cycles. And that's why the system will tell you that this is deprecated. It no longer exists in the new one. And when you click on it, so click swap, it suggests you an alternative what is EcoInvent has provided. This list is not perfect. So I found an example where it gave me 20 options. For example, there was a region change and it gave me a lot of India, and I was like, there has to be more. When you realize that it's not giving you all the examples, what you do is you search here yourself. So you say folding box, and then it shows you all the other alternatives if you want to switch to something else. And when you are deciding that which one you want to switch, so if we go back here, exactly, let's say we do want to take this, you just click add process, and that's it. Now it says up to date. And this is important also when you're using your own cycles. So here, if I would be utilizing some of my own, let me show you. We add, for example, into distribution, just to see it better. Add news, something from Earthster. Yep, we have from Earthster, for example, rail transportation. Let's add our own. Now, what I'm doing is I'm using my own cycle. Someone from our team has created such a thing. And I'm saying that I'm using Rails 1 days. So when the dataset has multiple functional units, it shows up. So for example, this one gives me options of 1 package, 1 US dollars, or 1 days. And this is about the functional units when you're creating a cycle. And that's something that inside Earthster, you're able to add multiple functional units and production units. For example, in this example, this is a computer mouse. It says 1 unit. This could say 1 mouse. So that's totally up to you how you want to name it. And then the idea of adding functional units is about that how do you use this product so that you're able to compare different products better. So for example, a mouse that lasts 2 years is probably going to have a different environmental impact than a computer mouse that lasts 10 years. And these kind of variations you can add as functional units or even additional production units. And what's important in them is they need to be equivalent. So if you're saying that the mouse is used for 10 years and you want to add a functional unit, for example, electricity usage, then you need to add the value for that 10 years. And if you remember that, you're all good to go. Let me see exactly. So those are functional units, production units, and what did I want to show you? Yes, when you have added your own cycle. Look, now we have as a data source, it says Earthster. So our own organization is called Earthster, but yours will be called something else. And here you can see if it's up to date. Now, if someone who has created the rail transportation cycle goes ahead, does some changes, issues a release, my cycle here will say, there's something to update. But if they don't issue a release, the system is happy. It says everything is up to date, no changes. This is important. Remember always to issue a release, especially if you're using your own cycles in other cycles. You can nest them really cool ways. And I recommend breaking them into bits and pieces. Then we have 14 minutes. I had many more little bits and pieces, but most of the new features are showed except one. Many of you have been looking for this. Now you are able to search within your own cycles. Look, this thing appeared here. You click search cycle, and let's find my fruit cycles. You write fruit, and it shows you only those. I think this will be useful for many of you. I know many have been asking for it. Same thing on the comparison side. You go to the comparison, you can also works the same way. So you write again fruit, and then you see all those. And then you take out and you go back to the normal view. And comparisons, today I'm not going to show, but you're able to create cool comparisons. Actually, I'll show you one of these. This is how they look. Yeah, something new related to when you are creating a comparison. If you go into one of these, let's say you're more interested in damage to human health, you click into it. Now you're able to download as a graph. So it's going to take, it's on a white background. So you're able to add it into any presentations or reports you need to. And you're able to also download it as a CSV. So it's a little table that you can use for making different type of graphs, what you like more. But let's go back to parameters. Everyone is asking about that. Let me go here. So, which one we've been playing with? This one. Okay. Parameters. What are they? Parameters are variables in your cycle. And you can add, like, it's up to you how you parameterize your cycle. What's super important in them is don't add too many. When you start modeling, think that what aspects of your model should have, what is something that changes or could change? A really obvious one could be the weight of the product or distribution. And let me see, we destroyed this one. Let's delete this cycle from here. Good. As you can see, it recalculates everything instantly. But now let's go to my parameters. What have I thought that it's relevant for this cycle? If you have the parameters enabled, you have this section here. It's a simple table. It will evolve more that you will be able to group your parameters nicely so that you find them better. Because I've started to see cases that you have too many parameters. But when the models are complex, your parameters are complex. There's two types of parameters existing. One called numeric one, which is always about something with numbers, and it's more likely to be physical units. But you can also use those for percentages, representing percentages. For example, weight of the fruits. Let's see. When you have one, you name it, however you want to name that, you know what you mean with it. The identifier is the name for the variable that you are using in the calculations. So this is a bit nerdy style. It has to be all lowercase letters, and spaces needs to be the, what is this called, underscore. As you can see, it even suggests you that that's what you have to do. Then this part is flexible. So I could say that in my model, I like calculating everything with grams. Then you set it up as grams. You just have to remember that your parameter is set up with grams. I like calculating in kilos. You can use imperial units or anything you like. Mid value is the one that's obligatory to add in here. And that is the value that's currently active in the model. So if we go out and you see this, whatever I have put in the middle or the mid value, it's the one that says that, okay, our fruit production is this amount. And let's go back. Parameters. So that was the fruits. Then you can add a minimum and a maximum value, but you can leave it empty. Where this comes handy, if you add a minimum and a maximum, when you're playing around with scenarios, when you click here, what you see, this is now the scenario view. And when you have set up the cycle, the parameters, you're able to play around with the data. That's why you do the parameters, the whole reason for it, to play around and see what happens. That, let's see, we have, so now you can see that the environmental impact is 95 grams of CO2 equivalent with an apricot. What happens if I change it to peach? Look, peaches have a lower environmental impact, 75 grams of CO2 equivalent. Let's see with mandarins. Those are my options that I have created, even lower environmental impact. So you're able to play around with the data like this. So this is what I was now switching between, is what we called an option parameter. And I'll show you in a moment what it does. But here's where you can see that this is a parameter that I have added a minimum and a maximum. So it works with a slider. I can do it like this. And the grams are so tiny that you don't see the impact. But that's what it does when you have added a min. And if you don't have added, for example, let's say it's transported a lot from Spain all the way to Finland, and that's it. You update your value, and it looks like this when you have not added the minimum and maximum. So you are able to add by numbers. And just in case your values are really difficult to land on a number that you're looking for, when you click on the number here, you can edit by hand. You can make it more precise. Then you just save it and it recalculates everything for you. Okay, now this is the part of just viewing what happens, and the same thing, you can still open these bits and pieces and see what the difference is, that what happens here, and the values based on the scenario you're playing with. Now let me show you, for example, this one, and you can reset everything. So you're like, oh, I don't remember what was here. You just click here, reset, and then it takes back how the model is set up. Now let's do it like this. We keep these numbers like that. I say add scenario to compare. This is gonna be our, yep, I guess I have added in here. This is why it's not live yet for everyone, because there's minor bugs in the parameters. And until those are all ironed out, I'm not allowing it to be available for everyone. And exactly, if you need to have access already, I need you to report all these kind of little glitches that you find. Now let me go back. Exactly, we go to scenarios. Have I added here into parameters? No. Okay. What it does when you have added the different scenarios, so you take snapshots of the scenarios, you modify those, and then it creates for you a comparison. This is how they look. I've been playing around with the same data. And as you can see, the first one is a default, then the other one, there's the plastic weight changed, and you're able to rename them. When you click on the name itself, it takes you to that cycle. But what you want to do is go into the settings and make sure that all the comparison setup is how you would like to see. Now look, here what we are comparing is a scenario called default, 4 portions, because it takes it from my functional units. But I can decide that I want to compare one package against one package instead of portions. So like this. And once you have created this, you're able to also edit the parameters here. You go into the settings, you say, yeah, I need to switch this. Let's make it a bit bigger, longer distance. You apply changes and it updates everything. And you are able to rename it. Let's say default apricot, so that you know yourself what's in the scenario. And of course, you can also keep notes in the description section. You add here notes that what are you doing for? What are you comparing? And with Earthster, what you're able to also do is, if you have stakeholders that you want to keep content and they want more transparency, but let's say you don't want to share your models with them, you're able to share, for example, only this comparison. They see the totals, they know how much in total the environmental impact is, but they cannot go into the cycles itself. So what they see is this. This is what they see. And might be sometimes useful. But we have 3 minutes, and I'm pretty sure you wanted to see even more from not comparisons from the parameters. But I already showed you some parts. So when you add the parameters, you add them here. Yes, the most important part I didn't show you is how to use them. Look, this is the list where I'm using that particular parameter, and let's go check it out. For example, apricot production. Let's see. You click on the icon that already has it, and this is how it looks. So this is properly nerdy, how it's supposed to be, because it's a formula editor. It's a calculator, just like in Google Sheets or anything similar, Excel. It has its own syntax. And when you're using it, you add them. For example, let's say the formula would be the fruit option. So here what this calculation says, that I'm taking the apricot and multiplying that with the fruit weight. And when the apricot is selected in the parameters, the multiplier for it is 1. So it says 1 times the fruit weight. If the apricot is not selected, here you can see which one is active, or the actual values that are actively used. The value is 0. So let me show you. For example, if we take this out now and we want to add instead a different fruit, wait, what happened here? So you click fruit, and then you choose peaches. You click multiply. You can either write it, so you could write transport, and when it suggests like this, you can click tab and it auto-completes. Or what I like to do is click on these like this. And I recommend adding spaces just to make it prettier. It always calculates it, and as you can see, now the result is 0 because the fruit option is peach. If we change this back again to be the apricot, what happened? Like this, it added it to a different spot that I was expecting. Like this, fruit. As you can see, yeah, don't mess around with your own things. It calculates, you save it, and it updates the information straight away. And this is how you use them. And another way what you can do is if you have a complex calculation, for example, inside transportation, let me duplicate this. Here, the first one, the version I made, uses the parameters. But you can also do instead, you can just say the 350 times 247 divided by 89. And it calculates you save it, and it keeps that value. And when you're going into your list, when you hover over them, you see the formula itself, what you added. So it's a good way also to keeping track, where did you get that number from? For example, if you need to do currency exchanges or something, it's much better to leave it visible there to keep track of your own thoughts, to help others also and help yourself afterwards. Okay, our time is up. Thank you all for your awesome questions. If you would like to know more about Earthster, you can either reach out to me. So let me show you. Actually, before that, our website is earthster.org. So you find there a lot of information. And you can also book a meeting with our sales team. And otherwise, if you straight away, you know exactly that, wow, I love Earthster, I need to get it. Need to get to use it as soon as possible. Send a message to simo@earthster.org, or from the website also, you can book a meeting straight away with him, and he'll help you to choose the best plans for you, the different type of plans what we have, and that's, I would say, the best way forward. That's it for today. Thank you all. It's been a really awesome session, and see you about in a month. We haven't booked the time yet, but probably around a similar time. Thank you, and happy holidays and a happy new year. See you next year.